everyone, and welcome back. So, you want to know more about AI in education? Looks like you sent us a really interesting article outlining how AI could change things up. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. A deep dive into AI in education. We're going to explore not just what AI can do in the classroom, but also the biggest opportunities it's creating and maybe even some bumps in the road along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really fast-moving area.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me in this article was just how much AI is already shaping education.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, from personalized learning platforms
Yeah.
to those AI tutors. It's clear that the technology is not some far-off thing anymore.
Yeah, you're right. It's not science fiction anymore. It's actually happening right now. I bet a lot of you listening are already familiar with platforms like Duolingo or Khan Academy or Coursera. They all use AI to personalize what you're learning.
Yeah.
They adjust the content as you go based on how you're doing. But how do those platforms actually work? I mean, it's got to be more than just recommending the next lesson, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's way more sophisticated than that. These platforms are using some pretty complex algorithms to actually track your learning patterns. Like, they figure out your strengths and weaknesses. And then they adjust the content and how fast or slow you go through it based on that. It's kind of like having a personal tutor built right into the app, constantly checking your progress and tweaking things behind the scenes to help you learn better.
That's amazing. It's like taking personalized learning to a whole new level. But this article also talks about these AI-powered tutors like IBM Watson and Google Socratic. Are those really tutors in the traditional sense? What makes them different?
Well, they're different in some really fascinating ways. It's not just about giving pre-programmed answers like a chatbot. These AI tutors can actually analyze the questions you ask, and they figure out where you're getting stuck. And then they can offer you explanations that are tailored to you. You know what's really cool? The article gives this example of a student who's struggling with a math problem. Instead of just spitting out the answer, the AI tutor actually walks the student through all the steps. It explains the concepts behind it. And it even suggests similar problems so the student can practice what they just learned. That level of individual attention would be really hard to get in a normal classroom setting.
Whoa, that's wild. It's like having a tutor that can actually understand how you're thinking and adjust their teaching style to you. That's some seriously powerful stuff. But what about the future? This article hints at some even crazier applications of AI in education, things that sound almost too good to be true.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're talking immersive learning, using augmented reality and virtual reality. Like, seriously, imagine this. Instead of just reading about ancient Rome in a textbook, you could put on a VR headset and actually walk through the streets of the Colosseum like you're really there. Talk about experiencing history firsthand.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. AR and VR. Just for anyone listening who might not be totally up to speed with all the tech lingo, could you give us a quick explanation of what those are all about?
Sure. So augmented reality, which people call AR, that's basically like adding digital stuff on top of the real world. Think about those games where you can catch Pokemon on your phone while you're walking around your neighborhood. That's AR. Then there's virtual reality, or VR. That's a totally immersive experience. You put on a headset and it's like you're stepping into a whole other world. It could be a historical simulation or a science experiment, even a crazy fantasy adventure. VR can take you anywhere.
Wow, so using those technologies in education would totally change the game. It would make learning so much more exciting and hands-on. But the article also mentioned something called AI-driven adaptive curricula. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean our textbooks are going to start writing themselves?
Not quite, but it's getting close.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where textbooks aren't just static pages anymore, but they're like dynamic learning tools that are constantly changing and adapting to what the student needs. The AI can analyze how the student is learning, figure out where they need more help, and then it adjusts the curriculum to match. It's like having a textbook that's constantly evolving and tailoring itself to your own learning journey.
That's like having a personalized education plan that changes as you learn. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But how would those systems even work? What kind of AI magic is making all that happen?
Well, these adaptive curricula are powered by really sophisticated machine learning algorithms. These algorithms can crunch massive amounts of data, things like student performance, learning patterns, even feedback from teachers. And they use all that data to create these personalized learning pathways. It's about using AI to make education more efficient and effective and engaging for every student.
Wow, so it's not just about making learning more fun. It's about actually making it work better, too. This could be huge. This article also mentioned something about AI coaching for lifelong learning. What did you think about that? Is that something we could actually see happening soon?
Absolutely. Just imagine having an AI mentor. It could help you figure out your strengths and weaknesses, suggest courses or learning resources that are relevant to you, even guide you towards a career path that you'd really enjoy. It's all about using AI to empower people to take control of their own learning and development throughout their lives.
So it's like making education a continuous journey, not just something you do in school for a while and then you're done. This all sounds incredibly promising. But are there any downsides we should be thinking about? Because the article also mentioned some concerns people have raised about AI in education, and I think it's really important to address those too.
Of course. While AI has a ton of potential, we definitely need to be thoughtful about how we use it in education. We got to make sure that AI is used to make things better, not to replace the human side of education.
You just hit on something super important there, that balance between tech and the human side of learning. Because yeah, all this AI stuff sounds amazing, but honestly, I do worry about losing that human touch in the classroom. Kids learn so much from being around each other, working on projects together, even just goofing off at recess. Can AI really replace all that?
It's a totally valid concern. And it's something we have to keep in mind as we bring AI into schools. While AI can definitely personalize lessons and give feedback, it's not going to replace those social and emotional skills that kids learn from interacting with each other. Things like empathy and teamwork and how to handle disagreements.
Right. But those are all learned best through real-life experiences with other kids and with teachers, too.
Exactly.
So it's not about swapping teachers for robots. It's about finding ways for AI to help teachers create even better learning experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Think of it this way. AI can take over some of the more repetitive tasks, like grading those multiple choice quizzes or teaching those basic concepts that everyone needs to know, and that frees up teachers to do what they do best. Lead deeper discussions, give individual support, and create those strong relationships that are so important for kids to thrive.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about using AI to boost what teachers can do, not replace them. But, this article also brings up another concern, the risk of bias creeping into these AI systems. It's kind of scary to think about. Like, what if these systems are trained on data that's already biased? Could they end up making things even more unequal in education?
That is a huge issue, and it's one we need to be extremely careful about. AI systems are only as good as the information they learn from. So if that data has biases baked into it, those biases are going to show up in the AI's decisions. That's why it's so important to make sure that the data used to train these AI systems is diverse and representative. We have to really carefully check it to avoid those potential biases.
So it's not just about building the technology, it's about building it the right way so it's fair for everyone.
Absolutely. And that means constantly checking and evaluating these systems, making sure they're not accidentally disadvantaging certain groups of students or making existing inequalities worse.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. But then there's another potential roadblock, the cost of all this. I mean, developing and setting up these fancy AI systems can't be cheap, right? What about schools that can't afford to invest in this tech? Do they just get left behind?
That's another really important point. Access to technology is already a big problem in education, and we definitely don't want to make that gap any bigger. The goal is to make these AI tools available to every student, no matter their background or how much money their school has.
So it's not just about making cool technology, it's about making sure everyone benefits from it.
Exactly.
That sounds like a pretty big challenge, though.
It is, but it's one we have to face head on. There are actually a lot of people working on this, trying to make educational technology, including AI, more affordable and accessible for everyone. There are open source platforms, cloud-based solutions, government programs that help with funding. All of these are ways to try and bridge that digital divide and make sure all students have a chance to benefit.
That's good to hear. Because as amazing as this technology is, it wouldn't be right if only a small group of students got to use it.
I completely agree. The goal is to use AI to make education more fair and accessible for all learners.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the potential downsides of AI in education, but I want to swing back to the positive side for a minute. This article ends on a pretty hopeful note, saying that AI could really revolutionize education for the better. What do you think about that? Do you really think AI has that much power to change things?
I do, actually. I think AI has the potential to change how we teach and learn in a really fundamental way. It can make education more personalized and engaging and effective for every student.
Wow, that's a big statement. Can you give me some specific examples of how AI could make those positive changes happen? Like, what would a classroom that's truly powered by AI look like?
Well, let's start with personalized learning. We already talked about those adaptive curricula. But imagine a classroom where every student has their own personalized learning dashboard run by AI. This dashboard would track their progress, figure out what they're good at and what they need help with, and suggest activities that are tailored to their learning style and how fast they learn. It would be like having a custom-made education plan for every single student.
Okay, that does sound pretty amazing. But wouldn't that take a ton of data and processing power? I mean, is that even possible with the technology we have now?
You're right, it is a very data-intensive process. But all the advances in AI and cloud computing and data analytics are making it more and more doable. As we gather more data and make those algorithms even smarter, these personalized learning systems are only going to get better and more effective.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. It's our GI to make sure we're using it to help all students.
I couldn't agree more. The key is to approach AI in education with a focus on human-centered design, making sure the technology serves the needs of learners and educators, not the other way around.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. We talked about the potential benefits of AI in education, the challenges to watch out for, and how important it is to use it responsibly. Honestly, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. There's just so much to think about.
Yeah, I hear you. It is a lot to process. But hey, that's what the deep dive is all about, right? We take these complicated topics and try to break them down. So let's maybe zero in on something specific for a second. This article talked about using AI for grading and assessment. What do you think about that? On the one hand, it seems like it could save teachers a ton of time. But on the other hand, is it really a good idea to have machines judging students' work?
That's where things get really tricky. I mean, for things like multiple choice quizzes, AI can definitely automate the grading. That would free up so much time for teachers to focus on other stuff.
Right, like they could actually teach instead of just grading all the time. Exactly. But when you start talking about more subjective assessments like essays or creative projects, it gets a lot more complicated.
Yeah, because there's so much more to it than just right or wrong answers. Can an algorithm really understand creativity and critical thinking and all those things teachers look for?
That's the big question. AI is getting better at analyzing text and even picking up on some aspects of creativity. But it's still nowhere near as good as a human teacher when it comes to making those nuanced judgments. I think the goal should be to give teachers better tools, not to replace them completely.
Right. So instead of having AI grade essays, maybe it could help teachers with some of the other stuff. Like maybe it could flag common mistakes or give feedback on grammar and structure.
Exactly. Or even suggest areas where the student could improve. That would still save teachers a ton of time and energy.
Totally. It's like AI is partnering with the teacher, not taking over their job.
I like that partnering.
Yeah.
AI can handle those more basic tasks, and then teachers can focus on giving personalized feedback and having those deeper conversations with students about their work.
Makes sense. And that brings us back to personalized learning, which this article really highlighted as a key benefit of AI in education.
It is a game changer.
So can you kind of paint a picture for us? What would truly personalized learning look like in a classroom powered by AI?
Okay, so imagine the classroom where learning isn't limited to a textbook or a set pace.
Okay, I'm imagining.
Each student would have their own unique learning path that adjusts to their needs and interests. The AI would track their progress, figure out how they learn best, and suggest resources and activities that fit their goals.
Wow, so it's totally individualized. Like every student has their own personal tutor. But how would that even work in real life? Would students be learning totally different things at completely different speeds? That sounds kind of chaotic for a teacher to handle.
It would definitely require a different way of thinking about teaching. But the AI could actually help teachers manage this new kind of classroom. It could keep track of everyone's progress and alert the teacher if a student is struggling. It could even suggest ways to adjust the teaching for different students' needs.
So the teacher is still the one in charge, guiding the learning and providing support. But the AI is there to help make the experience more personal for each student.
Exactly. It's about using AI to empower both teachers and students. Teachers would have more time and freedom to focus on what they're best at, and students would have more control over their own learning journey.
That's a pretty awesome vision. But like we've been talking about, there are those potential downsides too.
Always important to remember those.
So it seems like the key is to approach AI in education with a mix of excitement and caution. We got to be excited about what it can do, but also be aware of the risks.
I agree completely. The future of education isn't about picking between AI or traditional teaching methods. It's about finding the right balance between the two. It's about using technology to make human capabilities even better. and creating a learning experience that's more personal, more engaging, and more equitable for everyone.
That's a perfect way to sum it up. So, for everyone listening out there, we'll leave you with this question to think about. What role do you think AI should play in the future of education? Would you have liked having an AI tutor when you were growing up? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI and education. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.